Technology, is it enabling or restricting the art of hospitality? We have an expert panel which will be led by Caroline Baldwin from The Caterer. So I will leave Caroline to introduce her panel to you. Please welcome them all, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to see so many people here today. Yes, I'm Caroline from The Caterer magazine, and I'm delighted to be hosting this afternoon's panel, looking at whether technology is enabling or restricting the art of hospitality. I have personally been writing about technology for over a decade. I've watched how various industries, such as government and retail, have developed technologies to enhance their business objectives. So when I started at The Caterer exactly 3 years ago today, actually, writing about hospitality more recently has been so interesting for me because looking at it with that technology lens, it's an industry like no other. It really requires that human touch. And when you see businesses both embracing technology while also being a bit wary of it at the same time, it's quite an interesting one to write about. So we're going to talk a little bit about that over the next 25 minutes. If you will have a bit of a roaming mic, we'll get Peter running about again in a little bit. So if you've got some questions, do ask those later on. But I just want to start by introducing my panel. So I've got Wesley from Barclaycard Payments, Danica from Shiji, and I've got Stephen from Ruckus Networks at the end. So potentially, could you guys start by just introducing yourselves and why this topic? Why are you here on stage today? Steve?
So good afternoon. I'm Steve Johnson. I'm the Senior Director for North and East Europe for Ruckus Networks. Ruckus Networks is a communications company, probably most famous for supply of Wi-Fi technology into the hospitality industry. Why am I so interested in this topic? Well, I work in the technology industry, so it's clearly pretty dear to my heart. I do think there is a particular transformative effect that technology investment can have that we sometimes try and overcomplicate. And the bottom line is that most technology investments should be able to solve most problems, many problems, if they're done well, and give you the opportunity to take advantage of opportunities if they're done well.
Very good. Danica.
And I'm Danica. I'm the Director of Product Engagement and Strategy at Shiji. Thanks for having me today. Super excited because coming from a technology vendor, we work with 90,000 hotels and we've been on a mission to build an end-to-end technology stack across the guest experience. And the main purpose is to enable our clients, accommodation providers, to focus on the guests and do what they do best, serve the guests. So really excited for our topic today.
Super. And Wesley?
Thank you, Caroline. So I'm Wes Thompson, so I head up hospitality and leisure for Barclaycard Payments. Why am I interested in being part of this panel? Well, I guess 20 years plus in payments and payments technology. And you know, during that time, I guess the most fun I had was actually working for a fintech in the hospitality space. And a lot of the consultation that we're providing to clients at the moment is around digital transformation, how to help them give their guests the experiences that their guests now expect, following digital transformation on the consumer side as well.
Of course. So this is quite a broad topic, a bit of a step change from the AI panel that we had before. So we might steer a little bit away from AI because we've only got 20 minutes. And I'm going to start by asking you all for some great examples of where technology has enabled hotels to do better. Danica, do you want to start?
Yeah, I've got a question to the audience as well. Has anybody checked in and completed an online check-in using WhatsApp? Raise your hand if you have.
A couple of hands.
Not many of us. Raise your hand if you would like to do that. Of course, many of us. And now I'm so excited we're in the situation where we have that technology to really provide that seamless digital guest journey, European guests using WhatsApp,
No worries.
US guests using SMS, coming from China using WeChat. So it really is looking at different ways of carrying out the traditional guest journey, but digitalizing it in a way that we use every day. So I think that's a pretty cool example, but then it's so simple. Why all of us are business travelers, we should all be checking in online using a messaging channel of our choice. So I think it's cool that we're finally arrived at that place.
That's a really good, it's an enablement rather than restriction.
You don't really have many unanswered WhatsApp messages on your phone compared to email, so it's a channel that, for me personally, I'm excited about.
Fantastic. Steve?
So I'd take that one step further. This is a personal experience I had very recently. I arrived in, of all places, Tallinn in Estonia, and my flight was delayed. It always happens when you're on those late flights. And I eventually arrived at the hotel I was supposed to be staying in, a good sort of 4-star business hotel, at 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was nobody there and the front door was locked. Fortunately, using technology similar to the one that Danika's explained, I'd already checked in, and I was able to use the technology to not just unlock the front door without having to wait for anybody to come and see me. I didn't have to engage with any kind of reception or check-in desk at all. I already knew what room number my room was, went up in the lift, went straight to the room, and used my phone again to unlock the door. Now, I'd heard about this technology before I used it, and I kind of a bit skeptical. I'm a naturally skeptical person. Is it a gimmick? You know, do people really need this? Honestly, since I used it that day, it's the most brilliant technology I've come across.
Cool. So in that situation, because I've again wanted this technology on my phone to open my hotel room for ages, and I haven't actually come across it myself personally when I've been travelling. Do you think that hotel was closed because that technology was available? Therefore, oh, you know, it's fine. We can close the door because Steve's coming later and he's going to be using it.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. You know, previously they'd have had to have somebody either on the door or the front desk. It's more manpower required. So it's a great example of technology being used to reduce costs from that point of view.
Reducing costs, enabling you to come in on your own.
And providing a great experience.
Yeah. I'm just going to flip that to you in a bit and just ask you if my mum had turned up without her phone, or your phone had gone dead on the aeroplane or whatever. Is that where we flip into the restricting side, and how do we overcome that?
So,
Great question.
all technology is good as long as it's delivered effectively and with a specific purpose. So, I can't answer that question. I don't know your mum, but I think I understand kind of where it's coming from. It's an option. So you have the option to download the application that enables all of this. And also the hotel very clearly knew who their clientele were. You know, it's a business hotel. I don't remember seeing any families or kids or anything like that at all around the hotel. So I think there's an assumption behind that, that they're developing or deploying technology to specifically address a need that their specific clientele wants to use.
And I think we'll go on to that in a moment. Wesley, I'd love to hear your example. What's your key?
Great technology. So I always think about great technology as being implemented to solve a problem or remove friction or create great guest experiences. So I guess a recent example that I liked personally was, I think Muse are here today, but I liked their latest development where what they did is they connected keycard systems to the POS application. And the reason they did that was to remove the existing paper-based manual process of posting to your room. So with their development, all you do is you tap the keycard on the POS application, it brings up your account, you post to the room. And why did I find that cool? So one, what you've just done is, you know, from an ESG perspective, that's great, so less paper. Two, the time that process now takes is significantly reduced, so more time for the guests to spend enjoying their experience, more time for the hotel to, you know, serve other guests. And then three, from a commercial perspective, it eliminates manual error. So, you know, sometimes it's probably easier to read hieroglyphics than my own handwriting. So, you know, if I leave a note for my wife, she'll say, you know, what did the bird mean? And I'll say, that says they. So, you know, when you get manual errors, you know, that costs hoteliers money. So I thought that was such, you know, the word used earlier was simple, such a simple innovation that has so many benefits. I thought that was pretty cool.
Definitely some really great examples there. Moving on, a couple of you've mentioned digital transformation already. In hospitality, it's such a big stepping stone, depending on how much finance you have to embark on these journeys. Is it difficult, the technologies that you've mentioned, are they difficult to integrate? How do they fit into digital transformation journeys? And sometimes does a monumental task of a transformation journey in itself restrict the art of hospitality because it's such a huge project? Who'd like to take that one? Dan, you're raring to go.
Because I think it's super exciting that, you know, we hear it today and for the last 24 months that we have the technology. You know, if I hear open APIs and connectivity, as vendors, we have the right ecosystem, which is fantastic. That doesn't help the hotelier. What we need is the strategies. What are the strategies that go with those open APIs? I'm staying at the Ruby Zoe Hotel down the road. And it's super cool that, you know, I check in online, gives me the opportunity when I arrive to opt out of housekeeping in exchange for a free drink. I'm in, obviously. That's a really great initiative, obviously, for staff shortage. It alleviates the pressures on housekeeping, you know, great sustainability initiative. But strategically, how does that sit? You know, what sits? The flow of that data, the flow of that SOP, what sits in the PMS, what's triggered to housekeeping, what device does the housekeeper use, what happens when he or she quits, or, you know, so that's, I think, the challenge of really technology, and does it hinder or advance the guest experience? It's no longer about the technology, it's how we implement it, you know, and how we really make sure it's efficient to enhance the guest experience. And it's really difficult when we're doing a lot of innovation, those answers aren't there in the industry. You know, going back to WhatsApp, the next question is, well, what time do we send the WhatsApp message to get the best conversion? Nobody knows. So I think it's the strategic side that we all need to catch up with and support the industry in order to really nail the technological advancements that we have.
Yeah, so I think when I think about digital transformation, how difficult is it? I mean, great technology these days is built in a modular way that it's easy to integrate. And where I see most friction is where there isn't collaboration between the technology partners. So encouraging collaboration amongst your technology partners can make digital transformation much easier. Yeah, so you know, your technology partner should have a shared objective of making your business more successful.
And I feel like we're seeing more of that than we were 10 years ago, right? There is much more collaboration within the industry, within that. Steve, what about yourself? You see?
Yeah, I mean, I think the trends that we see, I mean, what it comes down to, again, if you boil it down to the simple common denominators or the lowest common denominator is, does the hotel want to own the technology? Or the hotel chain want to own the technology? Or do they want to deploy the services that the technology provides? And typically the trend that we see is that the larger the chain, particularly the large internationals, very much want to own the technology because they see the advantage of the data and so on. But because they see the advantage of that and what they can do with the data, particularly in and around things like loyalty, they're willing to invest a great deal to own and manage the technology themselves. There are other hospitality environments where you just want to be a hotelier. You just want to provide a great experience and a great service for your guests. You don't want to employ a big IT staff and be constantly running around. So, I mean, there's a large suite of systems integrators that specialize in complete solutions for hospitality environments. And, you know, they are there to fill that gap in terms of making the complex simple for that kind of environment.
And you touched on data and customer loyalty. I'd love, again, watching the clock dramatically go down and going all over the place with the topic, but the customer loyalty, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, trying to get repeat visits, trying to make that customer guest journey as great as possible and for them to come back or rave about you to their friends. And in retail, it's so common to whip out your Tesco or your Boots card, and we're seeing that ramping up with retailers today, even more so. Hospitality, there's so much more choice, you know, and what the gentleman before from Agilysys was saying, he doesn't have a second stay in the UK. It's very common. You want to try out all these different places. Unless you're a huge group like an IHG or an Accor with the investment to put into a loyalty app, how can hospitality operators capture that loyalty and that data? What do you think, Steve, since you started?
Well, there's obviously a couple of ways. The one is the direct loyalty program.
Yeah.
Typically, it needs to provide value in return. I don't think it's particularly successful when it's a stick rather than a carrot. But when the carrot is there, certainly I traveled quite a lot around Europe, and I'm a member of a couple of loyalty programs that I feel provide me value in return. The less obvious one, although it's been mentioned earlier, and I think it was mentioned during the AI conversation as well, is about the personalization of the experience. So for me, if a particular hotel can learn enough about me and the three things that I really care about when I'm staying in a hotel room. So one, obviously great internet connectivity, good Wi-Fi. That's direct technology. The second one is shower pressure. Okay, that can be managed by technology as well. And the third one is one that will is just something that really annoys me. Is sometimes key cards get magnetized and don't work. One that would absolutely bring me back to the same hotel is there's technology available now to allow you to phone reception and actually have your key card recharged at the door as well. Now, that doesn't happen every stay, is good news. But if I were to stay in a hotel that had that technology, then it would be my hotel. If the hotel learns that those are the three things that fit me, they'll capture my business every time I go back to the area in the future.
Interesting. What's your take on customer loyalty?
It's just so overwhelming, I think, for hoteliers. I'm an ex-hotel marketing background, and, talking about guest preferences, interestingly enough, one of my top drivers for a hotel is breakfast and the number of coat hangers they have in the rooms. If we both book on Booking.com as a first stay, how does that hotel understand my preference, capture my preference, store my preference, and then action my preference for my next stay? Which, by the way, is totally different when I travel with my kids, So I think I don't have the answers, but I have complete empathy, because I think when it comes to guest loyalty, yes, we have the traditional loyalty reward programs, but it is also about personalization and expectations. So I just think it's really difficult to actually, again, strategically have something tangible where, like I just said, Danica wants extra coat hangers in her room, make sure they're there when I've booked on an OTA and it's my first time stay. Or even my second time stay, how do I extract that information from me? And I think that's where your staff, your people, making sure that you can kind of get that extra information from the guests during their stay and recording it, and then turning that into actionable is the future of kind of guest loyalty.
So true. That actionable, I don't know about anybody else, but is it so annoying when you are engaging with these people via loyalty apps and then they don't take that information and you turn up? That's an example for me of restricting the art in technology, be it in hospitality or any other sector, where you're giving away your data, but then they're not using it in the most appropriate way to give you a better experience.
Or continue to make them, you book a honeymoon suite and then you keep getting honeymoon offers. It's like, well, I got married 6 months ago, back in 3 years. But, it's the update your preferences and the expectations. That's no longer acceptable in 2023.
So true. Got anything to add on loyalty?
Yeah, just, I think sometimes there's a myth that loyalty and reward needs to be a loyalty program.
Yes.
And it really doesn't. And, the way when I think about loyalty, it's interesting that you both use the word actionable. It's actionable insight. So if I answer that question from a payments perspective, with the right payments technology integrated into your other systems, you can gain that actionable insight data that, originally can be anonymized. So you could see a profile of me, if that technology is implemented across your entire estate, multiple brands, multiple locations, you can see me, Wesley Thompson, how often I stay, what I prefer to drink in the bar, what I choose to eat. Do I visit your other hotels? Do I visit your other hotels in different countries? And that insight will be there and it'd be anonymized. And then if I decide that I want to feel rewarded, which, who doesn't, right? Then I might ask for that information to be used in a way to create personalized experiences for me, so that the next time I check in, that they remember me when I tap my card and, there's a Peroni waiting for me whilst I check in. But actually, I don't need that in a way because I've already checked in by WhatsApp now. So that would be better, actually. But that kind of technology already exists today, and it's not even complicated, and that can power reward.
No, definitely. We've got a few minutes left. I wondered if there were any questions. I've got a few more here to quiz, but if there were any hands up, I can't see. It's very bright up here.
So many.
Oh, coming down this side. Sorry, Peter.
He's getting faster.
Off he goes.
Thank you. Eloise from Boutique Hotel News. There was a great question earlier about Airbnb acquiring a new AI platform. For the tech landscape to stay competitive, do you think we'll see more M&A and consolidation, or will we see new products launched? And how should hoteliers navigate the various platforms and products and tools that are now in the market?
Great
Would like to do
question.
that one.
I don't mind taking it. I think that's a great question, and it plays to what I said earlier about great technology is built in a modular way that's easy for it all to integrate. And sometimes where I see decisions that aren't always made for the benefit of the merchant is where technology providers want to do everything themselves, whereas actually if they partner more with certain modules or features that make that hotel more effective, more efficient, get more customers, I think that's better for the hospitality sector as opposed to market consolidation of great technology that want to do more for your hotel. I think that's counter to benefit for hospitality merchants personally.
Yeah. And I think it's to add to that as well. I think it's going to be key in terms of recruitment. Somebody mentioned this morning, for anybody young in the room, go and travel. But when you look around, there's no 20-year-olds in the room. So I think it's going to be, AI and technology and the really cool advancements that we have that's going to hopefully provide a future where a 20-year-old is like, wow, hospitality is where it's at. That's where I want to work. And I think that's going to be key to hotels surviving in 5 years' time is making sure we've got people to run the hotels and fill the hotels.
Any other questions before we begin to wrap up? No, perfect. Well, that's just coming down to the last couple of minutes then. I'd love it if we can maybe start to wrap up with an example of where, technology has been restricted and how you can turn that into an enablement. So a bad example that's been turned into a good one.
So, well, the most common one, particularly in my technology sector, is budgeting incorrectly. So making a decision to invest in a particular technology and then looking for the cheapest option for that technology. And actually, it's a hidden cost because we see very commonly in the hospitality sector, customers and prospects that have invested in the lowest cost option, only a year or two later to find out that the operating expense that's incurred because they went for the lowest cost CapEx is costing them more than they can possibly imagine. So they need then to come and invest in a better technology.
How do you, in such a cash-strapped environment that so many operators are in at the moment, what advice would you give them when they're doing their research?
So, again, simple things. Why are you investing?
Yeah.
So what's the goal at the end of the goal? Can you put a pound note sign next to that goal? What's that, achieving that goal going to provide you financially? What kind of return on investment are you happy to accept? 12 months, 18 months, 2 years more, whatever it might be, and base your budgets on that.
Some great advice there. Danica?
I had an example at a recent hotel where I opted out of housekeeping. I have 2 young toddlers, so I was away for a night enjoying my lion, and not only did they come and offer to clean my room, they woke me up.
Okay.
So again, have the right SOPs, the right strategies, and when it comes to implementing any innovation or any technology, involve all stakeholders, especially operations. So they can set the SOP that goes in line with that technology. So that doesn't happen.
I mean, just very quickly, I know we're over time, but essentially, sometimes I see decisions made at a very, very senior level that then get implemented and create friction for the people on the ground, whereas potentially the technology that's implemented should be reverse engineered from the challenges that are happening on the ground. So that would just be my advice.
That's a really good piece of advice. Thank you. Please thank our panellists today.
Thanks. Well done, guys.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
To Steve, Danica, Wesley, and thanks, of course, to Caroline Baldwin for handling that.